Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of The Thing Is. Today I have with me Tim. Hey Tim.
Thank you for having me. I've been watching the show.
Really?
I have. I've been thinking about the content that's being produced. I can see that there's a switch in your focus of content, but I think relationships make the world go around. So
Absolutely. I wanted to try something new, and I kind of wanted to put my own personal experience out there just to kind of give people a little bit of freedom to move. Do you know what I mean? I feel like sometimes there's some topics when it comes to relationships that people don't want to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's stifling for other people because you feel like you're on your own, you're on an island, you know? And so the more we talk about these things and throw light on it, it helps to free other people. So I like to talk about relationships.
Great. Well, we're going to talk today.
We are. That's why I brought you here. So I've been talking a lot about marriages, relationships, all of that. Now, there's one particular thing that I want to discuss. I want to talk about people that are living in marriages that are actually living alone. Because there is a thing as that, people being married and still living alone. What do you think about that? How is that even possible to be married and still be alone?
Okay, when you say alone, are we talking about just like the feeling of being alone, or like you're physically like separated from the person, you're all alone? Like, give a little bit more context so I can answer the question.
Okay, so you're living together, but you're almost living separate lives. Like you're not really married. To the outside world, you're married, but at home, you're not really married. No one knows.
Yeah, it does happen. I think that for me, I go back to the foundation, right? I'll say the number one for me, the foundation of a marriage for me is God. Like if I didn't have God, I would not be married for 11 years. Like, and I'm saying this like it's only by the grace of God that we haven't had no issues of infidelity, no violence. Like, I mean, there's been times we wanted to choke each other, literally.
Yeah. Oh, I get it. Yeah.
We've never had those issues, so I'll go back to like that's the foundation, right? And that's going to be the context for everything that's communicated today. So I think that it definitely is a reality that you can feel alone in relationship. And I think that this is where it's so important to understand the difference between like how we feel and what's real. Right? Because we can feel alone in a relationship. And I'm not saying that may not be true, but I'm just going to stick with the feeling side of it for a moment. We can feel alone in a relationship, and it is very real in those moments that we feel alone. And it may be something that's happening for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, maybe a couple of years. But I think to answer your question, number one, it does exist. It is real.
Yeah.
The way to work through that is going back to, I think, the foundation of a marriage, right? Because we're talking about marriages, right?
Yeah.
Going back to what's the foundation of a marriage, however you define it. What's the purpose of a marriage?
Yeah.
Because if the purpose is really to be in a position to where you are both working towards becoming better people and accomplishing the purpose that God has for you on earth, then you're always going to be in a position of perfecting.
Right.
Always. And if you stop before you get to the other side of what it looks like to have the beautiful happily ever after, right?
Yeah.
Then you don't get to experience that. But to be honest, I mean, it's, absolutely you can feel alone in a relationship or a marriage. It's a fact.
But how does a person get to that place? Because I feel like when you get married to somebody, you start off as it being a partnership. You want to do everything together. But then how do you get to a place where actually you're no longer enjoying each other's company and you're alone?
I mean, I think you have ebbs and flows in a relationship. So I'll say that I've been married, December will be 11 years to the same person, same wife. Right? You gotta put
just stressing that, right? Yeah, okay.
I mean, you got different marriages, different people.
Yeah.
I wrote a blog about this. And one of the things I wrote in my blog was I said that the name of the blog is Confessions of a Married Man. And I talked about the realities of I'm still sexually attracted to women.
Right.
I didn't go blind when I got married.
You didn't?
I still recognize, a big butt and a smile. Even though I need to proceed with caution.
Right.
That girl may be poisonous. But, I mean, and one of the things I talked about was loneliness. So even for me, I've always been a loner.
I'm the same.
I've always been a loner.
I'm the same.
So when I got married, I used to believe that my marriage would fill the void of that loneliness. But I realized it didn't.
Yeah.
But then when I got into a deeper exploration of like just some intrapersonal conversations with myself and with a therapist, I firmly believe in therapy. I'm in therapy right now. Every other week.
Right, okay.
What I began to discover was these feelings came back they went all the way back to childhood.
Always do. They always do.
And so how I was yesterday showed up in my present state.
Yeah.
So then, for me, what it did was it gave me context for my marriage. So instead of me believing that my wife is the person that's supposed to remove the loneliness, now I'm able to look within myself. Now, the feelings are very real now. And they still are absolutely, I mean, they get nasty and gritty sometimes when you feel like that. But the number one thing I had to do was understand that who was I before I got into a relationship. And knowing that that piece of me did not dissolve because I'm in a relationship. And then having a platform where, number one, I can communicate my feelings, not just to my wife.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, I don't know if this is all men or most men, but I'm going to say a men in an American context. Let me say that. A lot of times, because we're so not used to being emotionally vulnerable, we have feelings. We a lot of times just don't know how to articulate our feelings.
Right.
And sometimes the only feeling that we can show is anger. But we know that anger is a secondary emotion.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we're hurt, we feel violated, whatever.
Right, right.
So we need to be able to communicate with people other than our wives, if you're in a husband-wife relationship.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you just end up vomiting all that stuff on that person and they can't handle that. So the loneliness is there. So number one, me digging deeper to understand that this existed before my marriage. Number two, having conversations with people who have similar personalities to help me walk through that. Having good men in my life to be able to say, hey, bro, like this is going on. And they can provide me some good biblical counsel and say, I feel you, but don't do like this, do it like this. And those things have really helped me tremendously, like real talk. And I think the last thing is having an outlet, right? Like for me, I write.
Oh, okay.
So being able to write and express myself is truly a cathartic process where I'm not just holding everything up on the inside. And then I'm like, you know what?
Because then things compound, right?
Does,
and they feel much worse.
It does, yeah.
So in your 11 years of marriage, have you ever felt like walking away?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%.
And how did you deal with that?
Well, again, I think it goes back to what I think about is, so there's a scripture, it's like 1 Corinthians, it says that, 1 Corinthians 13, it says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I reasoned as a child, and I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things.
Right.
And in the context, this verse is really talking about the epitome of love and not, using our gifts and stuff like that to cover up for like genuine love, right? But in answer to your question, when I think about that particular verse, I think about how you have children. I have a child.
Right.
Children really think and behave at the level they're supposed to.
Right.
And it's based on their worldview.
Yeah.
And it's very real. When a child is hungry, they go bananas.
I know.
When they want something, they want something.
Right now.
When they get their feelings hurt, they get their feelings hurt.
Yeah.
But then as we get older, right, the process of growing older is inevitable. But growing up is a choice.
Right. So, I like that.
So now what happens is for me, in those moments, previously, when I thought about just walking away, I asked myself a couple questions. Number one, do I believe that God has given me the space right now to walk away? Like, is this something that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt? If I walked away from this, I can say, God, I've given 110%. I've left nothing on the field, and I ain't got nothing else to give.
Right.
And in most cases, the answer is no. The second thing is, I think about the child, right? The question I ask now is, what are some areas in my life that I may need to grow up? Because this relationship, for me, has just been a context where my leadership, my character deficiencies, my character proficiencies have come out. So the relationship has really just been the laboratory to grow me up. And to be honest, there's been times where I wanted to walk away because it's easy. It's easy. It's easy to walk away.
Well, I don't know if I fully agree with that.
Okay, let me say.
Let's bring it in and be real, because obviously I've been separated now, right? I'm separated and I'm going through the process. Now you're saying that it's easy to walk away. I don't agree with that.
Let me articulate. Let me better explain that. It would be easier for me to not have to deal with myself. Okay. Through being revealed through my character deficiencies in this relationship. Because like, if you're in a relationship, let's just remove marriage, right? Yeah. Let's just say a friendship, and somebody does something you don't like. Yeah. But maybe you just got issues. Maybe it's your own kind of idiosyncratic behavior that's coming out. It's easier to be like, it's your problem.
Right.
Versus, dang, like, what is it about me that has to grow up in this area? Why is it that when this person wears blue, they just get on my nerves?
Right.
Why is it when a person, leave the toothpaste cap out, that pisses me off?
Right,
Sorry,
right.
can I say that?
Yeah, go for it.
That ticks me off. Like, are there areas in my life that I may have to grow up? And I think that when I say easier, I'm not saying the process of being in a marriage and walking away from that is easy, because I've never been through that. But I do know that it's easier to avoid dealing with myself and dealing with the realness of like, how can I show up and still love this person when I'm feeling like I ain't getting nothing either?
Right.
This is a waste of my time. Man, forget this.
Yeah, because marriage is really hard. Like, I feel like sometimes people don't really understand that. They're so wrapped in the whole I love this person thing. And love, for me, I just feel like love doesn't carry you through your marriage. I mean, it's there and it's nice, but it doesn't carry you through your marriage, because you change, you grow, and so many things can change within a period of time that I feel like love can't carry you. And I feel like people just skim over that part when they think of marriage. They just feel like it's, the one-day event of, oh, we're having a wedding, and then they don't think about the future. And actually, you're tied to this person, and everything you do from now on involves this person. This person has an input in absolutely everything that you do from now on. And it's for life, because marriage, I believe fully that marriage should be for life. But I feel like people are not necessarily seeing that. It's almost become like a microwave society where you marry and then you can break up with a person. It's almost like dating. But it's a more extreme version of it,
It's just an advanced version of dating.
Yeah.
I would say that I'm not disagreeing with you that love can't carry you through a marriage. I really go back to the definition of, like, it depends on how people, if love is a feeling, then of course it won't.
Okay, so what's love?
Love is, in my perspective, love really comes from God. Like, love is being able to exhibit the same amount of grace to my wife that God has given me. Like, there's been so many times where I know in my heart God don't want me to do something. I'm like, you know what? Forget you. I'm doing this anyway. And my wife would do something that she know that I don't like. And I'm not talking about a minor situation.
Right.
I'm talking about some stuff that, like, this may be a violation of our personal constitution, our family constitution.
Yeah.
And again, I go back to the foundation of, like, what is God's love, right? God's love is really being able to exhibit grace, exhibit the things that the person truly don't deserve. That's what grace is, really giving somebody something that they don't deserve.
Right.
Because this is what I think about too. I think about sometimes in relationships, we have to understand that the problem that we have with a person is not really the person, it's the person's mind. And the person's mind was developed based on how they were raised. And sometimes people can be doing things and exhibiting behaviors that they don't even know are there. So it's kind of like if you had somebody that had an involuntary response to, like, a bell or something.
Yeah.
And every time the bell rung, they just slapped their hands. Right? But let's say there's a way that you can actually work through, like, physical therapy to where you wouldn't do that as much. But initially, you would have grace for that person because, they just doing it because they don't know no better. Right, okay. But the problem is when we're in relationships with people, the person that's doing something they don't know no better is doing something that offends us. And it hurts, right? It hurts, but then it goes back to expectations. It took me about 5 years of marriage, no lie, to realize that I didn't marry a wife. I married a woman, a person. Because for 5 years, it was like, my wife is supposed to. My wife is, I don't understand how my wife is not. I don't understand why my wife is not. But then after a while, it was like, I didn't marry a wife. The image in my mind of what a wife is. I married a woman, a person, a human being with her own ideas, her feelings and thoughts. And that was hard to navigate through. Because now, the idea of what I always wanted is now shattered. It's like, I thought that marriage should be like this. Now that image is shattered. So now what do I do? Right. So now I got to go back to, okay, God, what do I believe love is? And I may be the person in my wife's life to exhibit love to the degree to where my children, right, are looking at an example of love and saying, that's what I want. Like, I want to be the type of man that when I saw, mama acting crazy towards daddy, how daddy responded, or when daddy was acting crazy
Yeah.
towards mama, how mama responded. And I know because of my parents' example, that's what God's love is.
Yeah.
And that's not easy.
No,
and I'm not
it's
saying
not.
that you should stay in a relationship because the kids, we all know, but that ain't gonna work.
That's definitely not gonna work.
Because as soon as they turn 18, you're like, well, it's about time.
It's nice knowing you.
It's nice knowing you. So this is how we gonna split it up. And they in school now.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yes, like,
On the side of the tracks.
Right, exactly. So do you believe in divorce? Just let me ask you that. Do you believe that there are instances where it's okay to say this is enough, it's not working?
Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say those are?
I don't know, particularly. Because every situation may be different. Like real talk, somebody may look at my relationship and look at our problems and be like, man, y'all need to shut up. Y'all ain't got no problem.
Yeah.
Keep it moving. I may look at somebody's situation and see that, man, like, this person committed an act of infidelity. That's grounds for leaving. And I'm not saying it is or it's not, and they may not. They may rectify. I mean, why did the person commit infidelity?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Was it one night in Vegas where they was, you know what I'm saying, just
Yeah.
having a good time? Or was it a long-term, I mean, I don't know. So I would say that there are definitely grounds for removing yourself from a situation that may ultimately be detrimental to you or your kids or something like that. Let's talk, for example, violence, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship with somebody that's violent, right, and the potential threat to your life, to your kids' life, you got to remove yourself from that situation.
Absolutely.
You got to.
Yeah.
I'm not even saying you should get divorced. I'm just saying you got to get out that situation. Because it don't make no sense for you to die talking about I died for love. I was trying to keep it real. No, you need to go on somewhere. But I think that I can't really say that these are definitive reasons for divorce. Because even now, like when I first got married, I was like, if these things happen, I'm gone. But then you'd be like, man, I spent a lot of time with this person, man.
Right.
Like
the way the numbers back up, right?
We've been in the trenches so long that when you think about starting over, it's not like a fear. It's just that you realize that, even, let me just say me, I realize that if my relationship dissolved today, the issue that I have, I'm still gonna have, regardless of who I'm with.
Yeah.
And then if I got to do this all over again with somebody, I'm not saying that God couldn't bless me with somebody incredible, or God couldn't bless my wife with somebody else incredible because other people have moved on. I'm just saying that the process is still gonna be the same.
Yeah.
You still gonna have to love. You still gonna have to forgive. You still gonna have issues that you don't even know you have until some come up and it's like, you know what, my daddy always did this, and I can't stand the fact. And you're like, oh Lord. So
let me ask you something. Okay, so I was having a conversation with someone recently, and we were talking about infidelity, and they said that if a man, if their wife was to cheat, that's it for them. But they feel that if they, as a man, were to cheat with a woman, like the wife should forgive. What do you think about that? Why is it worse when a woman cheats than when a man cheats?
did the person say why he felt like that?
No, you just kind of, it was just a conversation that we were having.
Oh, okay.
And I was just trying to wrap my head around why it's worse for a woman to cheat on her husband than for a man to cheat.
I mean, again, it goes back to your perception of like what a man is, what a woman is, and those kind of things. Like sometimes, a guy may feel like, as a man, I just got privy to, do what I need to do. And it's not emotional, right? I know that I've heard that before. It's not emotional, it's just sex. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I think that these things a lot of times expose our own hypocrisy. You're a hypocrite. Like if somebody, I put it like this, like if you, like would you say the same thing like if you had a daughter? Some people would because they ratchet like that. But if you had a daughter, would you sit your daughter down and say, listen, if Quasi over here or Fernando, whoever, right, is cheating on you, just you know what, don't worry about it. Your daughter comes to you crying and she like, we supposed to be monogamous. Not you made arrangements to do your thing, but like you both have entered into a relationship with the understanding that monogamy is the principle that holds us together. And your daughter comes to you, is telling how her feelings are hurt and this happened, that. Would you be like, you know what, man, just don't worry about it. That's just what men do. Because if you wouldn't do that, it exposes your own hypocrisy.
But I feel like in the African culture, that is basically what people say.
If
a man cheats, they're like, well, he's an African man.
That's what they do.
But you have children.
So I think here's the thing. You have to be it's a violation of the integrity of your relationship if one person is believing that we're in a monogamous relationship and the other person says that they're in a monogamous relationship but they're not acting like it. Now, it's another thing if you got an agreement that, listen, you know what I'm saying, you do your thing as long as you don't bring it home. And then you said, I'm cool with that, but then after a while you got mad because you got your feelings hurt because now he out here acting a fool because the first thing he gonna say is, well, you said, you understood that this was what it was about. But if you go into a relationship with the agreement that this is a monogamous relationship, you have violated the integrity of your relationship because you just said that this is what we're gonna do and you're not doing it. So, you know, it's about protecting the integrity of the relationship and what it stands for. I mean, I've heard it many times, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're a man, that's just what men do. And if that's the case, then, you know, if a woman go out there and do it, you can't really just be tripping like that.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think it's equally bad on both sides, but I actually do slightly kind of understand where that thinking would come from.
Where?
Because I feel like for women, we are emotionally involved when it comes to things like this. So a woman, if she's going to cheat, I feel like it's probably there's some emotional something tie. But a man can do it and walk away and get up and not think about the person again.
It's okay, but what about the woman that he's with though? Because so in that perspective, it's all about the man. And this is what I mean, I don't know a lot. I mean, I know just a little bit. But this is what I do know a lot of times in a relationship. Sometimes we go outside of our relationship because we don't want to deal with the difficulty in our relationship. For example, let's just say you've been with somebody a long time. You done had sex on the ceiling, in the car. You done everything you do. You're tired. You're bored. But instead of having a real conversation around how can we sexually satisfy each other and really take it to a new dimension, right? When it's like, it's easier to go and do something else. Like one of my favorite rappers, his name is Lecrae. He said, any boy can take one woman and satisfy her for one night. But it takes a real man to satisfy one woman for the rest of her life.
I like that.
And so the thing is, it's easy to go out here and be with somebody you ain't never been with before. And do the wham bam, thank you ma'am, and you're good.
Yeah. Do you believe in marriages like that? A man can have several wives. Do you think those kind of relationships can work?
Well, here's the thing.
He's thinking about it.
No, there's different I literally just had a conversation with somebody about this the other day. The truth is, when you look at the different layers of culture in the world, there are instances where that does work. If people come to the table and they say, this is what we agree upon, I'm not saying that it's for me because I can't think, listen, my head would explode trying to
It's hard work, right?
I couldn't imagine.
But I can't see how relationships like that can be balanced for the woman. I don't see it.
I think we also have to understand that, you know, cultures are very different, not just in Africa, but you go to other cultures, you know, what we call primal religion, not primitive, but primal religion, where it's very similar to the African context. But the thing is, it just depends, you know, like, I think in any institution can like be abused. For example, I think about like in Ghana, right, where we did some work in the Western region after the explosion that happened. And in that particular area, you know, the women who husbands had died, who were widows, they can't work. The idea is culturally the community is supposed to come in and take care of those women, which sounds like a dope idea.
Yeah, it does. Like, it really does.
Like, but here's what happens, right? When that institution gets violated, right? Because now these women can't work, and what we saw was those women wasn't working. The funds that was being given wasn't given to them. So now they're left vulnerable. And so if a man comes up and is like, "Yo, I got you. But you know you're going to have to get me now." Then you have violated the very institution that's supposed to work in a way that's beneficial. So when it goes back to whether you're in a relationship, you know, one man, one woman, or one man with multiple wives, or one wife with multiple husbands, because I have heard about that as well.
I was going to ask you about that too.
If you come to the table and you saying this is what we're doing, and everybody's in agreement, I mean, listen, I don't know. Maybe if that works for you, then it works for you. If everybody's in agreement, I'm just saying I wouldn't do it because I couldn't imagine the way I have been broken, contrite, and every other word you want to use in my relationship and trying to love one person. I just couldn't personally imagine how I could do this for multiple people. I'd be dead. I mean, Man, I couldn't imagine.
Because it sounds like one of those things that's like every man's dream. Have multiple women, right?
I don't think, well, maybe sex with a bunch of women. Maybe not wives. Maybe not the responsibility.
Okay.
People may want to just have the sex with a bunch of women, but not the responsibility. I doubt that every man wants to have multiple wives. I think a bunch of men want to have the freedom to do what they want, but not the responsibility that comes with it. A lot of people are afraid that this ain't gonna work. I'm not gonna get nothing out of it.
Yeah, but by getting married, that doesn't secure you anyway. Because
I'm not saying it secure you, and I don't even believe marriage. I don't even believe you should go into a marriage believing that this is gonna secure me financially. Well, everything goes back to culture, man. Like seriously, like some context. Let's say, for example, here in Ghana, it's very different than the U.S., where there are some women who are literally dependent on their husband, like to take care of them. And if they walk away from the relationship, they walking away with nothing.
Finished, yeah.
That's very, and then and their family gonna tell them you foolish for walking away because we ain't got nothing to give you.
Yeah.
So go back to where you came from.
Yeah, it happens.
But you may have another context where somebody financially can take care of themselves, especially in the States. We got a lot of women making way more money than men anyway.
Yeah.
And then, but I think it goes back to how do we define marriage and what's the purpose of it? Because sometimes, like you said, it's just an extended dating period for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Let me see if I like, oh, you getting on my nerves, I don't like you no more. Or, you know, the sex ain't really good. And you know, I can't mess with you because the sex is trash. And everything goes back to selfishness, right? I think the sex is trash. You're not doing nothing for me. You're not loving me. You're not. And after a while, it's like, I guess you can find somebody like that, but I'm just saying, I don't really see too many people who experience loving at the highest level like that. I mean, listen, I know I could be wrong.
No, I mean, I get what you're saying. I just feel like, what are some of the things that people are doing that is wrong when it comes to getting married these days? Because, I mean, like, there's a lot of people separating, getting divorced, and a lot of them are hiding it. Let me just be real. A lot of them are hiding. I've had a lot of people contact me about issues that they're having since I've started speaking up about my separation and putting myself out there. I've had a lot of people tell me, look, I'm going through exactly the same thing, and they're keeping it hidden. Yeah. And I'm like, but why? I don't feel...
A lot of times we go into relationships with such an erroneous perspective about love and marriage. We go in believing that this person is going to make me happy. And they say, and then the way we know that is because we start using, if you speak English, the S word, should. You should, my wife should, my husband should, you should know how to, you should be cooking, you should be clean, you should know how to put it down in the bedroom, you should. All these are expectations. And I heard one quote that said, it was something like, expectations are just a breeding ground for like failure or something like that, I don't know. But it talked about how when you go into a relationship a lot of times, number one, we go in with the wrong foundation. And number two, we don't really take the time to get to know a person at the core level. And we don't search for things like character things. The person may be fine. You know, everybody right now talking about some, you know, man who's 6'2", you know what I'm saying? Fine, this and this. But character issues. You got to be able to test the person's character.
Key information.
We don't know character.
Right, exactly.
One of my mentors who's been married for like a long time, 30-some years. When I was dating my wife, we only dated for a year. Yeah. And we were abstinent or celibate, whatever the term is. We ain't had no sex. We ain't had no sex. But he told me, he said, you should make her mad. This is a solid man of integrity.
I get it.
I said, why? He said, just see how she responds. I don't know what I did, but I did something to make her mad. I was like, man, I want to see how she responds. Yeah. But I was able to see her character. Is she gonna be like, you mother, you stupid? She responded in a way that made me realize that yes, I made her mad, but she still maintained a level of respect and communication with it.
What you're saying is absolutely brilliant. I feel like this is how people miss it, right? Because you find a partner and you go by their looks. Okay, wow, the person's handsome. Oh, they buy me flowers. They're taking me out on dates. And that's the basis of their relationship. But actually, have you really thought about this person's character? Can you see yourself with this person for the next 50 years of your life or even more? I feel like people don't really look at a person's character, because the character is going to either make or break your relationship. Because there's some things that you can't stand. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
listen, the looks can change.
They fade.
And even if the person is fine, you don't look at this person because they are let's say, just tremendously financially irresponsible, and be like, at least they fine.
Right.
Or maybe the person is a terrible parent. But man, whoa, they got some good sex. Some people do.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when we do that, it's really because we got issues.
Right.
Like, let me be 100% like for
Please,
me,
let's go in.
one of my main issues is like I said, being a loner. And so sometimes I emotionally distance myself. But here's the reason why I realize it goes back for me. Let me say for me, it's insecurity and fear.
Yeah.
Because if you really know me, right, I'm afraid that you won't be able to handle who I am.
Oh, you said it beautifully.
And to risk, to really not take that risk of being vulnerable and being rejected, let me just keep a safe distance between you and me, because I don't even have to go back to that place of possibly feeling that if I let you in. And I think also we really have to have, I think everybody should have a personal constitution. It should be something that, these are parameters that you have in your own life. It's things what you will tolerate, what you will not tolerate. Even for yourself, like maybe your thing is, I will not allow myself to, I don't know, live in fear. I would not allow myself to make decisions based on whatever it is. Because when you have that, you're able to, it's like any country, right? Any country has a constitution that they go back to. So you as a person, when you have a constitution that you can go back to, not only do you help communicate that to the other person, and if they respect you and love you, now the Constitution can't be no, a bunch of silly stuff, right? Like you got to make love, you got to give me head every day. I mean, come on, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That ain't gonna happen. But stuff that's rooted in something that's true. But a lot of times we don't know ourselves enough either. We don't know why we got issues where if the person leaves for 1 hour and they haven't called us, why are we blowing them up?
Right.
Well, maybe you got separation anxiety. Maybe you got abandonment issues.
Exactly. That's why I say it's so important to know yourself before you get married. And I think when I got married, I think I knew myself. I didn't really fully understand myself. Like now that I'm a bit more grown, I see that, like you were saying about being a loner, I'm also the same. I'm very much a loner. I'm happy to be by myself. I don't mind. But I realized that it was probably some type of defense mechanism. I'm quite a quirky person, and I feel like not everybody can handle that.
Why?
I can be a little bit full on,
Okay.
But that's just me. That's just me. I've learned now, I'm at the place now where I embrace that quirkiness. If you don't like me, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But before, I probably try and keep it hidden so I could fit in and be how people expect me to be, And I feel like I hid that part of me for so long.
Do you feel like that part of you is also hidden in your marriage?
Absolutely.
And so then, can I ask why you felt like that part, or why you know that part was hidden in your relationship?
I don't really know. I just feel like I hadn't fully embodied who I was. And I just felt like I was at a place where I wasn't really growing or given the space to kind of grow into really understanding myself. But I also think that if I had, maybe things would have been done a lot sooner. I don't know.
So let me ask you then, I'm just curious. How did you know that, okay, it's time to close the curtain, wash the bowl, all those other euphemisms, as opposed to, we may just need to keep fighting a little bit more? How did you know definitively this is it?
It had been 18 years. 18 years of trying. Someone told me that the other day, actually. It was like, you tried for 18 years. I never looked at it like that at first, but I just got to the point where I was just tired. And I just knew I was going to have another 18 years of this. And that was not okay for me. And I just knew I've done my best. I have nothing else. I cannot give any more. I'm literally at my limit. And that was it. 18 years, I know. At first that scared me.
And then was it 18 years of trying with no reciprocity?
No. The first part of the marriage was pretty okay, but we were, young and dumb, and so everything was funny, everything was, you're kind of comfortable. But then I feel like you get to a point where life gets more serious, and that there's certain things you need to put in place. You need to have things in place for your children, for your well-being. You have to just put certain things down, and I felt like that just wasn't happening. And so for me, I was just like, I just can't.
Now, is there any door open for reconciliation?
Absolutely not.
Hey!
Well, you guys wanted the real, right? You wanted the real. Absolutely not.
Okay, can I ask why? This is just me being
Yeah, no, God, I'm sure all of you guys are being nosy and want to know, right? Yeah, no, absolutely not. Like, I'm 100% done.
So then there's no room for reconciliation, but I'm curious as to how. Like, there's no amount of character, behavior, change, modification that can be like.
It's been long enough, and I've grown past that point now. They say when a woman doesn't walk out straight away, right, of a marriage. It takes time for her to get there, to make that decision. Like I've always said, like, the age that I am now, do you think I want to be starting from ground zero and going to look for a boyfriend? Do you think that's really what I want to do at this stage of my life? I don't want to. Like, literally, I'm been flung into this situation and I'm having to deal with it the best that I can. And going through this situation has it's turned on lots of light bulbs for me. So because of that, I have moved on. And so there's no way that I can now go back because I've changed so much within that short space of time. And it was a great thing because I had to do it.
Wow. So you can walk away now, well, you already walked away. You walk away now and you feel like 100%, I've literally given everything that I can do.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in your situation. I'm asking questions.
You should. You should ask questions because I want everybody that's watching to understand this conversation and why I'm doing this podcast. So you can ask away.
And I'm curious because, like I said, I talk to a lot of people who are married, right? And I think I talk to people who have experienced that as well, right? I had a group of, so I'm a part of a group of married people where we meet regularly, like every couple weeks or every 3 weeks or something like that. All of them, we started, I think this is going on year 6 or 7 that we've been doing this. And we wanted to create a platform where people can be 100%.
Right.
We could talk about sex and all this other kind of stuff.
It's important.
And what we realized, it was crazy, we realized that a lot of us were never having these conversations. We got people in our group that's doctors, lawyers, educators, ministers in the church, and you'll be surprised. Nobody has had real conversations about sex.
Right.
I'm talking about real conversations.
No, I get you. When I was married, I'm not the most open person. Again, that comes back probably down to like trauma from childhood and stuff like that. I was definitely not the most open person. But I feel like conversations like that are very important. I mean, I don't want to really go into too much right now, but I feel like sometimes when it comes to things like sex, sometimes, people think that they know what they're doing and they don't necessarily know. And without conversation, you can't rectify these things.
And sometimes we don't even know what we want.
Yeah.
Like I was celibate for 7 years before I got married. Like I didn't have sex with a woman at all. No kind of form or fashion.
Really?
No hand, no.
Really?
No, seriously. And so when I got married, I didn't know, and I was not really sexually experienced a lot.
That's great that you can be so honest.
I mean, I ain't got nothing to be ashamed of. Like,
no, you haven't.
I can care less. Like, I've had people say something to me, but I mean, most, like, what? But they ain't like dudes. But when I got married, I didn't even realize sex was not just the act of sex. It was emotional, spiritual, like, it was all those connections. And I think that, like, I never even had nobody to talk to me about this. Like, nobody talked to me about these things. And so when I got a part of this group that I'm with, what I realized is 2 things. Number 1, oh snap, other people are having the same experience, so I'm not alone. Then number 2, how can we then help each other? And so we had to get to the point of even like, let's say watching like maybe like some what do you call it, like speeches and lectures about like real. Now we sit down watching. I was like, what's he gonna say next? No, we ain't gonna sit down watching and work our minds like that. But like real stuff, and then even simple things like suggestions. Here's a book about sex that talks about the emotional part. Here's a book. Like, let me tell you something. One of the best things one of my friends did was he told me, yo, go to the store. We got these sex shops. Go to the store. Go get you some stuff.
Really?
Seriously. So I had to go to the store and get some stuff.
Really? I've never been in a shop like that before.
Because here's the thing, like, listen, if you with somebody for 10 years, 5 years, let's imagine, I don't know, pie, chocolate pie is your favorite dessert. I don't care how much pecans you put on it, how much whipped cream you put on it. At the end of the day, you're like, God dang, I'm tired of this chocolate pie. So I got to find something else. But all that to say, I think even in these conversations, it helped me realize that number one, I wasn't alone. That's the biggest thing.
Right.
Because now it would have been like, man, our sex life ain't good. And then this person ain't really just here for me. They didn't respond the way I thought they should have responded. And then this and then this. And then all those things can lead to, you know what, man, I'm out. And there's been a lot of times like that I thought about, man, I don't even know what's the purpose of this. This is rough. But that's why I have some good friends in my life and good people in my life. And I'm in therapy to even help me understand, like, so many of these things comes back to me.
Yeah.
Like, I realized
True.
that I am going to have to be a better person, whether I'm married or not. It's just that now marriage is the laboratory where my development and growth is coming out.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to have to be a better person. And I even saw how it was debilitating every other area of my life, like areas I had to grow up in. And so when I realized that, it made me say, like, dang, like, this really, it's not good. I don't feel good all the time, but I believe that God is not going to waste these experiences. Like, honestly, at the end of the day, there's been times where I just had to say, God, I don't even have faith in me no more. I ain't got faith in the marriage no more. I ain't got faith in my therapist no more, or our therapist no more.
Yeah.
But I got faith in you. I got faith to believe that you won't waste these experiences. And if we're really trying to walk this thing out the way you want us to do it, I believe 100% that you're not going to waste any of these experiences, and I trust you. And that's difficult because when a person is offending you, or you offending the other person, it's hard to stay. When you look at each other, you're like, you good people, but I don't just think we should be together no more. Like, I like you, you like me, but I don't think we gonna. And I think that's different versus looking at somebody and be like, man, I can't stand you. So anyway, so I think everything goes back to the foundation.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. So tell me 3 things that people should think about before they decide to step into marriage.
Number one, I really believe that if you have access, I think you need to go to therapy. I'm such a proponent of therapy. I'm telling you, man. You go to a therapist to help you understand how your childhood formations of love, relationships, and identity, how they show up right now in your present life. Because once you realize that, you'll be able to contextualize why you cut people off, or why you love strong, or love hard, and love fast, whatever those, know why you do that. Maybe you got some deficiencies that you're trying to fulfill. That's number one. Number two, I think we really got to take some time to get to know each other. Like, you have to be able to talk with a person and understand character issues. Yeah. You got to understand family history. Tell me, what's your relationship like with your mom, with your daddy? Oh, I ain't got no daddy. I don't even believe in family. Oh, red flag.
Right there, I'm telling you.
It's like, let's just be on our own.
Live on an island.
And now you trying to call somebody for help just to, now see you gonna need people in our business like that. On the news today, a couple was found, their bodies were hidden. Sources say no one heard from them in the past 5 years.
Exactly, right?
So you got to ask those questions.
Yeah, no, it's
so you
very real.
I don't even think you have to know everything about yourself, because you're not going to know everything about yourself until you're in a relationship that brings some things out.
Exactly, it's magnified.
But you also have to really, I think you got to ask real questions of people. And I think the other thing is, this is just my opinion, I believe sometimes sex can convolute things. Because a lot of people say, oh man, you got to test drive a car before you drive it.
Yes.
Well, people not cars, man. Cars don't have no hearts. Cars don't have no feelings, man. But people do. And
but what if you marry someone and it's just awful?
Let me tell you, this is an opportunity to understand why it's awful, right? Did you have expectations that this person is supposed to always climax me? You may not even know what gets you off. That sounds so bad. You may not even know what sexually satisfied you. But then you expect the other person to know. Number one, you step into a relationship like that. The other part is there room for growth, right? But even in that, I think you have to have conversations beforehand. It's different if somebody shows up and maybe they, listen, real talk, I've met people where they married somebody who experienced a lot of sexual trauma. So for like months in a relationship, they didn't have no sex. But they didn't have no penetration sex, but they did other things. But the love that they had for each other and the communication that they had brought them to a place of understanding that we are at this, we understand what we're getting into.
Right.
And I know, man, it sounds like an antiquated, old school idea not to have sex. I'm just saying that I think that it can really complicate things, because when you have sex with somebody, you are connected to that person, and it can really convolute things. Because you can be with somebody. I heard this lady one time, she said you can get digmatized. I don't know if it's true, because I'm not from it, but they say, man, somebody can put it down so good that you just...
Someone said that to me just the other day, actually. That's so funny you just said that.
But then in that, what it does is it convolutes, who is this person? Who are they really? What do they really believe about money, about love, about family, about children, about respect, about all these other things?
Those are the important things.
Because the sex feels great, but it really blocks having real conversations. Because everything now is about sex, right? So you go into a movie and then you can't wait to have sex, and it's new, it's fresh, it's cool.
Yeah, of course.
But even in that relationship, if the sex is really banging, after 5-6 years, is it still going to be banging after 5 or 6 years with that same person? And it may not be. So then you're still going to have a conversation about now our sex is trash. Because what used to satisfy me 5 years ago may not satisfy me right now. And you're still going to have to deal with the same problem of having a difficult conversation about sexual satisfaction, intimacy, and connectedness in your relationship.
Wow. Yeah. I think what you're saying is absolutely true, because I feel like sex is definitely a huge part of the marriage. And you have to understand as well, for me, when you're talking about sex, it's not just the act, it is all the things that happen before that. And it's for your partner to understand that. I guess that comes down to love language, right? It's for your partner to understand that so that it works for both of you. Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's no understanding there, then you're already off. You're on different pages already.
It's true.
You know, some guys just want to jump in, like, it's finished. Woo, how's that for you? Woo! You know what I mean?
and it takes difficult conversations.
It does. That's not an easy thing to talk about.
It's not. And I think, and that's where really a deeper level of intimacy comes in. Like, to be able to sit with a person and say, well, have the wisdom and the know-how, not to be like, man, your sex is trash. But like to be able to say, let's talk, like, how do you feel about our sex life? How is it for you? And then to hear, and I think sometimes these difficult conversations, it may not just be between you and that person. You may have to have an objective person there, like a trained professional, not like your homegirl, homegirl who's biased.
Right.
But like somebody who's an objective person who's used to having those difficult conversations there to help you facilitate. Because now it may come across as you telling me that you don't love me, or you telling me that, you know, whatever. Or so why you don't like being with me, or you out with somebody else, and all these other things may come up. But like, that's a really difficult conversation, but it's necessary, because again, like, if you don't have that conversation, like what are you gonna do? Just keep being dissatisfied?
Okay, so answer me this. You were talking about remaining celibate before you got married, right?
Yeah.
So how do you have conversations about sex and still remain focused on the goal, which is to not have sex before marriage?
How can
you talk about it?
Let me say this. We were long distance. So number one, I was in another
You couldn't reach that far.
No, I couldn't. So I ain't gonna lie, it made it easier because we were in 2 different states. When we got together, it was rough.
Right.
You know, I was like, man, I'm trying to slide into something right now. But we set boundaries, honestly. Like, it was like, yo, we're not going to be alone after this time. Like, we didn't put ourselves in a position like, yo, let's watch a movie, let's sip a glass of wine, and sit on the bed together. Somebody finna get pointed.
Yeah. Right.
And then also, we didn't date for 2-3 years. We dated for like, I remember I asked her for her phone number on Facebook, and that was around like August 2010. When I got her phone number, it was like August the 10th, 11th, the 12th, or something like that. And I remember because I proposed on the same day the following year. So it's like 2010, so maybe like 2010, 2011. And I proposed like a year later. So we didn't date long either.
Right.
Which is another point. I'll say this, I don't believe if you're a grown person, you need to date for 2, 3, 4, 5 years to figure out if this is somebody you want to marry. If you want to marry. If you don't want to marry, that's different. But people who say they want to marry, it don't take no 5, 6, 7 years. I'm just, if somebody is telling you they don't know, it's because they don't want to make the commitment. 6, if you're doing it right, asking real questions, 6, 7 months.
Wow.
I believe so. If you're grown.
Okay, if you're grown, yeah.
like I'm not just talking about an age, I'm talking about maturity.
Yeah. I get it.
You 20 years old, you may not know, but
yeah.
like, you like me at the age that I am.
You know.
There's no way I would need 2-3 years to determine whether or not if this woman is wife material.
Yeah.
Like, cause we asking real questions. We're not playing around. I'm not. What's your favorite color? That's cool. I like that. I like blue too. Like, tell me about your mama, your dad.
Right. So you know what you're gonna answer. It speeds up the process, right?
Yeah.
I get that.
So
I get that.
I mean, that's what we did. It was long distance, man.
That's safe. I get it.
Yeah.
Man, you know, we have been talking for almost an hour.
Yeah, time's definitely.
Man, I need you back on the show because, like, we need to talk some more. I feel like this is, like, honest conversation that needs to be had because I feel like people are not sharing enough because of embarrassment or shame, whatever it is. People are not sharing enough. So I think we need to have you back.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. And
thanks for
the
coming.
platform of being able to share these relational experiences with people. I think it's very helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anyway, guys, that is the end of today's show. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't already subscribed, and you have a YouTube channel, don't you? What's your YouTube channel? Let's say quickly.
Tim Swain.
There you go. That's fast, wasn't it?
Tim
Swain. Okay, if you also haven't subscribed to this channel, please do me a favor, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Don't forget to also like, comment and share this video. Until next time, we are out. Nutitfafa.